Volodymyr Eddie Artze, Alessandro. What do these solvers have in common? They're in this video and they're all in the top 20 for clock. I'll tell you what they don't have in common: the method they use. Clock theory is a lot more diverse than it has ever been, and there are solvers out there who use a lot of different methods. So I brought together some of the best clock solvers in the world to show you guys the best method at each level of clock solving. This was a huge collab, months in the making, so I would appreciate if you liked the video. I had them all use the same scramble to demonstrate the respective methods, so you can follow along as well. But without further ado, let's begin with Space-Time Cubing. Space-Time Cubing is one of the most underrated YouTubers I have ever seen. He's good at 303, he's good at 505, he's good at the guitar. What else do you need? He's incredibly talented and that shows in his content. We actually went head to head in 303 once, and I'll link that video in the description. In this video, he'll show you level 1, the beginner method, the most bare bones approach to solving the clock.
Hey everyone, Space-Time Cubing here. So here's the scramble, and I'm going to use just the basic beginner's method to solve the clock. So the first thing we do is we make a cross. So I'm going to look for these dials and see if I have anything lining up well. And on this face I noticed that these two line up, but I don't really see anything else line up. I'm going to flip it over and look at this face. Well, here I noticed something really good, which is these two line up, which is great. And also these are all really close to this. So if you look at this is at 10, this is at 11, this is at 12. So I noticed that that's going to be easy, and that's going to make it a little simpler to solve this. So the first thing I would do is basically align these to this one. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to push this pin up. So I'm going to do that. That. And now that's at 12. So these three are solved. And then I'm going to push this down. I'm going to solve these three with respect to this now. So I'm going to push this pin up so it enables these and locks that. And then those are all aligned, and now all I have to do is align all four of these to the last dial up here. So I'll just push both of these up and move that like that. Now they're all aligned, which is great. So now I can move this up and move them to 12. So as you can see, the cross has been formed on the front face, which is great. Cross is solved, I flip it over, and now I follow a particular pin order, but you don't really have to. So what I'm gonna do is I see that I want to align this to the top dial first. So I do that. And then I align those to the right like that. So now enable those, move it that way. Then I align these to the bottom, but as you can see, it's already aligned, which is great. So then all I have to do is align these to the left. So I just move these up, align it like that. And now comes the corner. So again, I have a pin order. I just go clockwise from the top left. So first thing I'm going to solve is these with respect to this. So like that. And then I'm going to push this down, push this up, solve these with respect to the top right. And then I'm going to solve these with respect to the bottom right, and I'm going to solve these with respect to the bottom left. Oh, that did not do it. I apologize. I forgot to push that down. This shows my proficiency in clock. Anyway, this is not solved, remember, because I did an X2 flip and not a Y2 flip, so I need to move them to 6. And now it's solved. So yeah, that's basically how I would do this scramble. It was a pretty easy scramble, I would say, and I'm pretty sure that by the time you get to the end of this video, you're going to see some insane solutions and some absolutely insanely smart and talented cubers. So like, enjoy that part of the video, but I hope this was fun anyway, beginner's method for the win.
Next up is flip. This method was the most popular for a long time, and most of clock history was just about using it to its maximum. Advanced flip is really the type of method where it's easy to learn, but difficult to master. And this brings us to the amazing Nathan Slowush. He's an all-rounder who's extremely fast at Megaminx, and he's also sub 4.5 with flip on clock. If you do flip, you know that's impressive. I'll turn it over to him to show you level 2, advanced flip.
Hi, I'm Nathan. I use flip and I global 4.1. This will be my solution to the scramble. First I see this bar and this bar. I will first look at this side, and I notice right away when I solve this bar to this, then these two will match up and they will end up at 8 o'clock. So the AF will be +4, I'm memo +4, and the edge is here, but I want to skip the D move, so I could flip like this, but I don't like it. So I will memo a -2, so with this pin position I can do my AF here and solve this bar to this edge.
Now I just want to clear up what Nathan meant in this video. When he said he was memorizing +4, he was essentially looking ahead to the last move in his front cross solution. Since there was no D move, this pin would actually not be affected by any of the moves he would do before the very last AUF move. So from this pin, he was able to tell that at the end, you would have to do a +4 move to solve the cross to 12 o'clock. Similarly with the -2 memo, he realized that if he had the pins like this, and then did a -2 like that, that would solve this with this. So this doesn't entirely go into the realm of memorization, it's just him seeing the stuff on the clock and sort of keeping that in mind to make his solution more efficient.
So I will do a +4 and -2, and now I will solve this bar to this, and as said, these two match and they are on 12 o'clock because of my pre-move. So I solve normally, I flip, and this edge stayed where it was, and I solve this block to this. Then I put this pin up and solve this big block to this. Now I will solve my cross to this corner. Then I will solve my cross to this corner. So I match my cross to here. And now solve the last corner. And the clock is solved. Yeah.
Longtime viewers of the channel may know that my first big video was a 10 Move Memoless tutorial. Looking back at it, there are a lot of things I think I could have done better, but it's still one of the coolest methods out there. I'll explain the genius of this method in level 3, 10 Move Memoless. So the genius of 10 Move Memoless is that it's able to use simultaneous moves, which is essentially when you have a pin up and you're able to do moves on the front as well as the back at the same time. But with most methods that utilize simultaneous moves, you have to memorize information about the back in order to make these simultaneous moves. But with 10 Move Memoless, that's actually not necessary. So let me show you an example of this. With 10 Move Memoless, you actually want to hold your corner skips in the front to preserve them. Here, there are two angles that we could start with. One would be this angle, and one would be this angle. This angle is certainly superior because you have a corner skip here and that will be preserved. If we do a diagonal flip like this, to make sure that we don't have to do D moves for the entire solution, we actually disrupt this corner skip. And the more efficient solution, but less ergonomic solution, would be to do an X2 flip. We would still be taking advantage of this CE skip, but we would have to do a D move. For my money, I think I would choose this more efficient solution versus the more ergonomic solution, but you could go either way. So the first step with 10 Move Memoless is to solve this piece with this piece. That has already been done for us. The second step will be to solve this block with this edge as well as this corner with this edge with a simultaneous move. However, this corner part has already been done for us, so we can just solve this block with this edge and that will be enough for us. And then we put this pin up, solve this with this, and then solve all of this with this. Now we don't actually do the final AUF move that you would regularly do with flip. Instead, we're gonna flip the clock and start on the second side. On this side, the first step will be to solve this piece with this. Now, the second part would be to solve this with this while solving this with this. And that's through a simul move. And then finally, if it was necessary, you would actually solve this with this while solving this with this. However, you would have noticed that we actually got a major skip on this side and it actually ended up solving itself. So all we really had to do was solve this with this. Finally, we're gonna put all of these three pins up and then match this with this. And then finally, we're gonna do a backslash pin position and then solve the entire clock. So this method is really easy to pick up, but it's quite powerful, especially if you don't want to learn a memorization method. But do not be fooled. The methods that you will learn about in the next few levels are much more powerful and are essential if you want to get good at clock. Now, we move on to the no-flip methods. The methods that require memo. To kick this off, we have Artze, a good friend of mine that I've been itching to collab with for a long time. He's the former NAR and current Sheerin world record holder, and he won the largest round of clock ever at North American Championships. I have a video on this channel all about his accomplishments. He did all this with a method some consider suboptimal, but it worked wonders for him. So here is level 4, Sheerin.
What is up, guys? This is Artze. I'm going to be going over how I would do the scramble with Sheerin. So firstly, I already see I have this C skip in the front, and then I have this already preserved corner skip also in the front. So this is pretty nice, because if I do my first move like this, I already make my L, and I have that corner skip. Anyways, we're going to check the back side, and we see we also have a C skip. And not only that, if you were to do memorization here, you could see we have an M1 skip, because this is 5 plus -5, which is 0. And that's an M1 skip. So if I were to do memorization here and execute from here, I would have a really efficient solution, since I have 2 execution skips here and 2 memorization skips. That my M1 skip and my M3 skip. I will also check how it would be if I were to execute from here or memo here in this orientation. For memo, it's nothing too special. I just have the M3 skip, and then on this side for memo, I have an M4 skip and an M1 skip again, because 5 plus -5 is 0. Each execution has its benefits. If I were to execute from here, it would be more efficient since I skipped 4 things. However, if I were to execute from here, I would have 1 execution skip and 2 memorization skips. So it's better to do it this way, no? Well, I start with a D move here, and it's also a D6 move, so that's not really ideal. And if I were to execute from here instead, I have no D move as the first move, so that's pretty ideal. And so, personally, I would execute from here, and then do memorization here. So my memorization would be 0, 5, 5, 0, and -4. And so, since M5 is -4, that's our first number that we start with. So I would do -4 with the left hand here, while making my L. And then, I put this pin up, and I make this part of the cross, like this. Next, since my M1 is 0, I just have to make my cross, and I don't have to do anything with the right hand. And now, since my M3 is 5, I would do 5 with the right hand, and then do -2 with the left hand, because that will match it up with the corner. Next, I have 5 for M3, and so I would do 5 with the right thumb, while also matching everything up to that corner as well. And now, finally, since my M4 is 0, I don't have to do anything with the left hand, and I just have to match everything to this corner. And then we just solve this corner, and there's no AUF, and we're done. Subscribe to Cuba time.
Our first 7-cymal method is Bpaul 7-cymal flip, a really innovative method in my opinion. But who better to talk about this than the Bpaul 7-cymal flip world record holder? Enter Alessandro. He recently got a 307 average, which ranks him 7th in the world. If that wasn't enough, he's also a Megamix god, and his improvement in both events has been insanely fast. I remember seeing a clock PR of his, going to congratulate him for it, and within a matter of hours it was already outdated. But enough about him, let's see the method he uses. Level 5, Bpaul 7-cymal flip.
Hi, my name is Alessandro, and I will be using Bpaul 7-cymal flip. So, the first thing I notice is this bar right here, and if I flip over to see if there's anything more, I also see this bar. So usually for Bpaul 7 simulflip, if you're experienced enough, then you can like memo fast, and you can choose like different angles during inspection. Okay, this angle's pretty good, so we'll just go with this. Okay, first part of memorization, R to D, 6, and then L to UL is, so 6 plus -3 is 3, and then U to C is 0, and L to U is 5. So we got 305, and then next is basically doing the same thing, except starting on the second side. So R to D is -5, and then L to UL is -5. So if you add that together, that equals -10, which is also equal to 2. U to C is -2, L to U is 1. So our memo here is 305, 2 -2 1. Okay, so first step, all but UR for execution, and then you just do 3 O, so you do nothing, and then 5, and at the same time pair D to R like intuitively. So 5, so you do that simultaneously, and then you just make this 2x2 block right here, flip, and then next part of the memo is 2 and -2. Pretty good simuls here, pretty fast too. And then here you do 1, and again at the same time pair D to R like intuitively. So go 1, and there you go. And then make this 2x2 block here, and then here's just AUF, so you just put slash and then solve to 12.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Someone in the leagues of Max Park and Felix Zemdegs, the greatest clock solver of all time, Volodymyr Kapustyansky. You already know what makes him so good. His turning, discipline, consistency, all out of this world. He's miles ahead of any possible competition. He has 5 out of the top 7 average. He's absolutely insane, and I'm so lucky he agreed to be in this video. So level 6, Tommy 7-sidle.
For this scramble, I would see 2 center edge skips here and here. The one I would choose is, first of all, I will check the right pinky move for each one. So for this one, it would be 6, and for this one, it'd be -5. So those are like really similar to me, so I'm gonna look for other things. So here, so for what the left hand, the second to last move would be, this would be -1, -5. Here, it would be -5 and -5, which is kind of bad. So I'll choose this to start right here. So the calculations go like this. So for the first move, it skipped 0 right here. So next one is this to this plus this to this, which is -3 plus 6, which is 3, or C. So you have OC. Next one would be this to this, which is 5, or E, and then this to this, which is 6, or F. So I'd have OC, EF. Next one would be this to this, add that to here, and then do this to this, flip it over, then I would add that to here, and then do this to this, which would be -3, and add it here, and it'll be -2, which would be J for me. And then here, you do -4, because it is -4 relative to the 12 o'clock position, plus -1, because you do this to this, which would be -5, and then do this to this, which is also -5. So you add those together, you get 2 or B. So the entire memo is OC, EF, JB. So starting right here, OC, EF, solve intuitive block, JB. Solve this block, solve that, and then finish it off.
So you may be wondering, what could be better than that? Volodymyr is the best in the world. What could be better than the best? The next 2 methods are not necessary to be world class. Rather, they exist within the deep and obscure waters of experimental clock theory. The stuff that is in the making, under construction. The previous solvers had very efficient solutions. Each solver considered so many things when planning their solutions in inspection. But were they optimal? I will show you level 7 simul tilt. So with the previous two 7 simul methods, you may have noticed that they had one glaring error with the both of them, which is that with this scramble specifically, they couldn't take advantage of both of these edge skips. They had to choose one out of the other to take advantage of. This was something that was mitigated in their solves, as they definitely chose the better of these two options. They chose the regular 7 simul pin set, which is bad because it can only take advantage of CE skips along this vertical. However, if you want to take advantage of CE skips like this, you have to learn 7 simul tilt. There are two pin sets for 7 simul tilt, which is called right and left 7 simul tilt. The way you can tell which type you have is by positioning one edge skip like this, so U and C, and then flipping to the other side. If the edge skip is on the right, you have right tilt 6 simul. And if the edge skip is on the left, then you have left tilt 7 simul. The reason that there isn't one pin set that takes advantage of both of these edge skips is because these two cases are chiral. Essentially, they are mirror images of one another, but they can't be superimposed on one another. They are not fundamentally the same thing. My chemistry majors will know what I'm talking about. To further illustrate this, a skip like this is chiral. You can take advantage of it like this if you're using Tommy 7 simul, and you can take advantage like this if you're using Mirror Zhang 7 simul. But a skip like this is impossible to take advantage of if you're using Mirror Zhang. It's only possible to take advantage of if you're using regular Tommy 7 simul. So this would be a chiral skip, which is why you have to learn two pin sets if you want to take advantage of this skip in all of its forms. Now with that in mind, knowing that this is right tilt 7 simul, we can begin memorization. First, we're going to do D to DR, which is 5. We're going to add that to UL to U. So UL to U is -4. So 5 plus -4 is 1, or A. Next, we're going to do D to C, which is going to be 6, which is just going to be F. So for our first two moves, we have AF, or F. Next, we're going to do L to UL, which is going to be -5, and then add that to D down here. So L to UL plus D, which is going to be -5, plus -4, which is going to be 3, or C. And then we're actually going to negate that. So instead of 3, we're going to memorize -3, or I. And then finally, and this is the most complicated of the memorizations, we're going to flip to the other side, do R to UR, which is 2, L to UL, which is -3, and as you can see, there's a very nice symmetry. It's just that to that and that to that. So R to UR is 2, L to UL is -3, and that gives us -1. And then we're going to flip back, UR to U, so UR to U, which is 0 in this case, so -1 plus 0 is still -1. And then finally, we're going to add that to D. So -1 plus D, which is 4 in this case, is just going to be 3, or C. So our final memorization is going to be AF and then IC, which is ice for me. Then we're going to begin solving. So the first pin position is going to be lowercase dr. So all of these 3 pins up, and then do M1 with your left hand, M2 with your right hand. So AF. Then we put this pin down, and we have the / pin position. So these 2 pins up, and we're going to do M3 and M4, or IC. Then we're just going to put the UR pin up, and then solve this block intuitively. So match this with this, and match this with this. Now we're actually going to do a really bad pin transition, which is just going to be to UL. Now, actually, the last 3 moves here are the last 3 moves of Tommy 7 simul, which is actually really nice. So we just solve this entire L block here, then solve everything but UR, and then UR. And then we've solved it. So this is a really nice method if you ever get one of those really annoying cases. Finally, you have the craziest of the clock methods. With a ton of cases, Psuedo 7 simul is like the Zebulus of 3x3. Theoretically, it is much faster, but in practice, it's a relatively difficult method to learn. But it is worth it. To talk about this, we have one of the leading ambassadors of this technique, and one of the most knowledgeable people when it comes to clock theory. Brendan Lee, aka TetraWaffle. Level 8, Psuedo 7 Simul.
Hello, it's me, TetraWaffle again. So I'm going to be talking about Psuedo 6 Simul. So Psuedo 6 Simul is pretty similar to right and left tilt, because they're both where you do a different pin set, other than the normal 7 Simul pin set, in order to get a 6 Simul solution. Except Psuedo 6 Simul basically has more cases, and the cases aren't always like obvious. So the case I'm going to be showing here is one of the cases that's like the most like difficult to spot, because you could get this case on a scramble where there are no things matched, like there's nothing is matched up, like there's no lucky cases. This case specifically for Psuedo 6 Simul is one of the less viable for actual solves. It's really hard to figure out if you have it and then do the memo for it, but it is sort of like the highest like theoretical level of clock solving right now. The first thing that we need to do is we need to calculate what the slash memo is going to be, and what we want is for M5 to be the inverse of M6. So the way we do that is we just do Tommy slash memo. So in this case, that means that on this side, the slash would be -2, and then on this side, slash would be 2, which is what we want, right? Because they're inverses of each other. Like 2 is the inverse of -2. All right, so the next thing that we check for is if M2 of Tommy 7 Simul is equal to M6, like the second number that we calculated for slash. So in this case, M2 would be -1 plus 1, which would be 0. So that's obviously not equal to 2. What's nice about this case is that we can just flip around the clock and check. Yeah, so if we look at that, right, so if you remember, our slash memo was -2 and 2. And so now when we calculate M2 from this angle, it's -5 plus -5 equals 2. So I had the slash memo and then I just did a Y2. That is something that you can just sort of do. If your slash memo was -2 and 2 and that was your only move that you need to do, the clock would look like this. And then if you do a Y2, it's the same thing. Like it's just the exact same slash memo. So that's why I can go from having this side have slash memo -2, 2, and just doing Y2, and it still works. So obviously that wasn't super straightforward to figure out. The nice thing about this is that all of those numbers are numbers you would calculate in Tommy 7 Simul, but if you were doing an actual solve, you'd have to like calculate it and then notice that. So now what we need to do is we need to find the new memo for our pin set that we're going to do. The memo for this is actually quite easy. So here's how it works. So basically our M1 is just going to be the same as Tommy M1. So that's nice and easy, -2, right? And then our M2 is going to be Tommy M2 plus Tommy M1. So in that case, we already calculated the M2, remember from before, when we were figuring out if we had the case, and it was 2. M2 was 2. So then 2 plus -2 is 0. So that means M2 is going to be 0. Next, for M3, we're going to do R to C. And then on the front, we do M4, and that's just regular Tommy M4. Anyways, so what this looks like, the execution, right? So we're going to start in the U pin position, so with the U pins up, and then we're going to do, right, so M1 was -2, and then M2 was 0. Then we go to R, and then we had -1 and 5, right? And then now we're going to solve the block, and then we can skip the slash move, so that's one of the moves we skipped. And then we just do the regular last 3 moves of Tommy 7 Simul. I cannot do that. But anyways, yeah, it's solved.
And so that was the 8th level. Don't be fooled. Clock theory is still rapidly evolving past what anybody thought was possible. People are coming up with crazier and crazier types of methods. It's equally ridiculous and exciting. But I hope this video gave you an idea of where we were, where we are now, and where we will be in terms of clock theory. Thank you guys for watching all the way through. It is still not lost on me how lucky I was to get some of the best clock solvers in the world to be in this video. Once again, thank you so much to Spacetime, Nathan, TetraWaffle, Eddie, Alessandro, Volodymyr. I mean, like, this is just a crazy video all around. So I'm very happy with how it turned out. Make sure to like and subscribe, and see you next time.